When I stopped drinking and I sat down and worked out how much I'd been spending on booze, it's no surprise to me now that I didn't conduct this exercise when I was still drinking. I simply didn't want to hear the financial cost of my habit. I didn't want to hear any negatives about booze. This is pure ostrich syndrome. The same technique that stopped me going to the doctor because I was afraid he would tell me to stop drinking. Western society acts as though alcohol is nothing more than a social pleasantry to be enjoyed with friends, but in reality it is a drug so powerful it can even prevent intelligent individuals from getting urgent medical help, simply to facilitate the continuation of the habit. Make no bones about it, this is a very dangerous, sinister drug, the ultimate wolf in sheep's clothing. At the peak of my drinking, I was knocking back 2 bottles of wine a night, plus a bottle of whiskey over the weekend. At a rough guess, that equates to a daily spend on alcohol of around $23 a day. A weekly spend of $161, or $724 every month. Wow. No wonder I didn't want to see this figure while I was still drinking. That would have shocked and depressed me. But it still wouldn't have stopped me drinking. And that's perhaps the scariest thought of all. If I hadn't stopped drinking, it's entirely likely I would have continued consuming booze at that ungodly rate, or even increased it further to compensate for my growing tolerance to the effects of the drug. This means that over the next decade, if I'd lived that long, I would have blown $86,000 on my addiction. Even this startling admission is only a half-truth because it doesn't allow for any of those ridiculously priced $400 bottles of art, Christmases, birthdays, or any other formal excuse to get excessively drunk on expensive alcohol. I was spending nearly $9,000 a year on drinking a poison while telling my children and family that we couldn't afford the expensive vacations or the little luxuries that we might have actually been able to afford if I wasn't lying to them, and of course to myself. As you're starting to see, alcohol lied to me, and it continues to lie to you. The challenge I throw down to you now is, what are you going to do about it? I encourage you to honestly do this exercise for yourself and calculate how much money you are spending on a common drug addiction. You will no doubt come up with an amount of money, which you can think of hundreds of different and better things to spend it on. Sadly, the financial cost is almost insignificant when compared to the other factors that need to be considered when you try and take stock of what alcohol has stolen from you. Booze affects everyone differently. For me, it made me sleepy. In a practical sense, what this meant was for me is when I got home from work, let's say 6 o'clock, I had the first glass poured by 6:05. By 7 o'clock, the first bottle was gone. An hour later, most of the second bottle was 2/3 empty. You see, I would never drink the full second bottle because, as I've told you, then I could lie to my wife and family when they asked if I'd drunk 2 bottles of wine again. At this point in the evening, I could hardly keep my eyes open. I would spend the next 30 minutes staring at the clock, wishing it were later so I could go to bed. It would be rare for me to make 9 p.m., normally collapsing unconscious into bed between 8:30 and 8:45. I would sleep badly, waking several times to use the toilet and more times gasping for water to deal with the dehydration. My bloodshot eyes would blink open at 6 a.m. and I would head into work, exhausted. This was my life for longer than I care to admit, and while alcohol may not have the same outcome for you, there will almost certainly be another negative side effect to replace it. In my case, let's say a more reasonable bedtime for a 9-to-5 office worker is around 11 o'clock. This means that my drinking took me offline for an additional 17 hours per week. Over 10 years, that means I spent 9,100 hours knocked out, unconscious, because of my drug addiction. That is time I will never get back. How many opportunities and experiences can you fit into nearly 10,000 hours? The mind boggles. The situation is even bleaker because I'm a father. It's not just my time I was throwing away. Allow me to expand on this point to really ram home the gloomy message of what my drinking did to me. If you're a parent, I apologize for what I'm about to say to you next. And if you're a visual or kinesthetic character type, then this might be traumatic and painful for you to imagine. But please, bear with me, because I'm doing this not to be cruel or to give you nightmares, but rather to make a valuable point. Imagine for me that tomorrow your child is abducted and you never see them again. Immediately, such horrific suggestions may remind you of what happened to the McCann family a while ago while on vacation in sunny Portugal. On Thursday, the 3rd of May 2007, Jerry and Kate McCann put their little daughter Madeline to bed for the last time. At some point before midnight, she was taken from her bed and she has never been seen since. If that happened to you, and there was absolutely nothing you could do to prevent it happening, let me ask you, what price would you put on an hour spent with your daughter? If a few months later it was possible to buy the opportunity to see your child again and spend just 1 hour with them, what would you be prepared to pay? $1,000? $10,000? $100,000? Or is it priceless? Would you pay everything you had just to spend 1 hour with your child? I know the answer is the latter for me, and yet alcohol, the social drug, made me throw away over 9,000 hours. I could have spent that time with my lovely children, Jordan and Aoife, but I didn't. I was unconscious in a bed, drunk. My children are the most precious things in my life, and yet a drug that people insist is just a bit of harmless fun, a beverage that they say is vital to the success of a party, and a drink that they demand must be consumed or you will be labelled boring and weird. Somehow this innocent substance made me willingly give away 758 priceless days with my children. I'm going to take a break from writing at this point because I am so angry. I feel so cheated that I don't think I can continue in this vein. I will close this chapter by giving you one question to think about. What has alcohol stolen from you? Is it your health, your time, your promotion, your money, your wife, your husband, your career? It may be one thing or it might be many, but as sure as night follows day, make no mistakes about it, you are the victim of a serious theft. Unless you wake up and realize that the bottle of booze you thought was your friend is actually your worst enemy, then you will be a victim tomorrow, the day after, and every day until the truth dawns on you. The average drinker who joins my online Stop Drinking Club is spending around $3,000 a year on alcohol. Now that might sound a lot, and the tendency of any drinker is to assume that they are nowhere near that amount, but $3,000 is less than $10 a day. And so if you're one of those people who drink a bottle of wine a day plus a bit more at the weekend, then I'm sorry to say you are way over that figure. But let's keep the glass half full, excuse the pun, and we'll stick with the average. Every person I have ever spoken to has agreed that they could find something important to do with $3,000. If I gave you that money today and told you to just go blow it, what would you do with it? Maybe take the kids to Disneyland, put it towards a new car, a romantic vacation, put it towards the college fund, a medical bill or procedure, pay off a credit card, whether you would use it to make life bearable or simply to add pleasure for you and those you love. That money is there. It's right there now and it's waiting for you. You don't need to ask your boss for a raise, work overtime, change job. It's already yours. And to get it, all you have to do is to step outside your current situation and see that alcohol is not your friend, helping you deal with a difficult life, but rather your enemy, deliberately stealing all those wonderful things from you and your family. My challenge to you is to put the book down and do the exercise that 95% of drinkers refuse to even consider. Sit down and honestly work out how much you spend on alcohol in a year. Make sure you include those lunchtime drinks with clients, weekend binges, and the special occasions such as Christmas, birthdays, and Thanksgiving. Those times when you treat yourself to much more expensive poison than usual. Come up with your golden number. And then think about what you would do with that money if somebody gave it to you in a lump sum today. Next, take that image of what you would do with the money, whether it's a trip to Florida you've always wanted to take or clearing the debt that just won't leave you alone. Get on the internet and find an image that represents that aspirational item. Print it out, stick it everywhere, on your refrigerator, on your bathroom mirror, everywhere that you can see it. If you ever take that image down without having completed the goal, you will know that alcohol has won again. Never let that day come.